Hi, welcome to the Blame Game. I'm Maria from Packside Academy and joined by.
Nathan from Packside Academy also.
I think this morning, Nathan, we were having a bit of a chat about client escalations, and they can be a
Mm.
huge issue in businesses if there's a problem. Tell us about your experience and what you've noticed when things are going sideways.
Oh, I've got heaps of experience with escalations. Having been in service roles, but also across relationship management, it's something that pops up from time to time for every business. Generally, either because you're not delivering the value and the service that you said you'd be doing, or there's a misalignment with expectations between yourself and the client. So um, we'll talk around some of the common scenarios, in more depth. But generally, where I see it falling down as a flow-on effect is if you're not resolving incidents in a timely manner, particularly high-priority incidents, and also with that, if you're just fixing the incident, finding workarounds, and not addressing problems, that starts spiraling within the environment as well. And now, they're having site outages, people are unproductive. Overall, the relationship's going to start, getting a lot worse from there.
Yeah, and I've noticed being really clear around communication with the client.
Mm.
Not we'll get back to you in a timely manner, but we'll get back to you within an hour, half an hour, 10 minutes,
Yeah,
whatever your time frames are that you need to do that. Because your idea of a timely manner and the client's idea of a timely
yeah,
manner, if everything's going sideways in their business and they need something resolved from a technology perspective, um, they need it done now, not in an hour. But if you explain to them that there's processes and so forth,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah. Having a process for high priority incidents is really key around that, and it is not saying timely matter, not leaving things open ended, saying we'll get back to you, in an hour. You'll have an update in an hour, even if the update is we haven't found the root cause, but we're still investigating. Often people don't want to go back to the client when they don't have a solution, but that just means the client's sitting around waiting for you to communicate with them and you're not doing it, and that's much worse than saying we haven't figured it out yet, but we're still working on it. And when you're providing those updates, give them a current state of where things are at. Tell them what your next actions are. Tell them if there's anything that they need to do for you on your behalf, and then give them an overview of what's been done so far. Because often we lead with what's been done so far. Look at all the things we've done, but it doesn't answer their question of, how bad is it and when is it going to be fixed?
yeah,
Do I need
absolutely.
to do anything?
So I've sat in the account management chair when there's a load of calls because there's problems going on, and I
Hmm.
receive a call from usually the person that I deal with on a regular basis who isn't involved in the necessarily the tech side of things. It
Hmm.
might be an ops manager or a CEO, and they're calling me to say, "You manage our account, manage this, fix it."
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to fix it. Um, who should be handling those client updates? Do you think?
Yeah, so when you are setting up an incident, one of the things that you should definitely be doing is identifying who is going to own the incident and who's going to be performing communication, not just externally, but to internal stakeholders as well, such as the account management team, your wider service desk, your management team, showing that you've got it under control, what you're doing to work through it. Um, where one of the big problems comes from that I've seen is, and I've been on the account management side as well, is jumping in and trying to corral all the engineers to do everything because it's your client, you're annoyed, the client's annoyed, and you need to get it sorted as soon as possible. And you start bringing in all these different people, and then you're not having it done in a structured manner where there is clear ownership. We become very reactive. And the biggest risk with that is that there may also be someone already managing the incident. That becomes really difficult for the troubleshooting step because you've got people going off and doing completely different things that may impact each other. But in terms of general communication and showing ownership and showing that you are an organized, company, if they're getting ping from the account manager, getting ping from the service manager or service coordinator, and the engineers also contacting them directly, and they're getting conflicting things because we're all trying to find different root causes. That's going to cause a lot of issues for them as well. So uh, it is clear. Well, it is really important to have clear understanding of and responsibilities around what part in the relationship do we all play. So we were talking around some of the things that happen is that it's generally because you're not resolving it as quick as need be, or they don't feel like you're giving it the priority or focus that's required. Um, is that down to the capability of your service team? Is it down to the response times that are agreed with the client, and are they aware of them? And are we measuring them to see if we're meeting them as well? Or is there an issue with expectations? Because those first two are service department things to work through. The second one is something for the account management to go to. So if they're saying, I asked for a new laptop and I haven't got it, and they asked for it at 8 a.m. that day and it's 3 p.m. the same day, there's an expectation
Yeah.
breakdown there that also needs to be dealt with.
Yeah. And I guess even if it's responding to an incident, there's still there's still an element of expectation that has come from either your agreements or from the sales cycle or from the management cycle, the management of that client, for them to expect um, response response times or resolution times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, if whether or not those are realistic, that's one of the things as well that I'd be telling people to look at is when you are setting up your service level targets to go into your SLA, and it's going to define the quality of the service and the timeliness of the service that you're doing. Can you actually reach it, and are you going to hold yourself accountable for it? Because again, with a lot of metrics, they can be used as vanity metrics if we're doing them well, and if we're not doing them well, we'll just ignore them, or we'll look at ways to tweak the results as well. Often we're not even reporting on it, not reporting to ourselves or reporting to the clients, but we have written it into an agreement that this is, the level of standard that we're offering.
Yeah. And so I guess reviewing your agreements, reviewing your SLAs, and doing that as part of building out an incident response plan, or an escalation response plan, perhaps is a better term for it,
Mhm.
because it's all escalations. It's not just incident
Yeah,
escalations that we'd have to be dealing with. Yeah.
yeah. Incidents tend to be the most common one I see, incidents and problems, but also as a result, what can happen is if you're not dealing with your incidents and problems well, you're going to end up having a whole bunch of people committed to just reactive firefighting continually. Requests start to suffer as well, and requests, that generally quite easy of, hey, add me to this group, I want this thing, very quick, easy, transactional type things to do. But if you are continually having to prioritize and focus on everything's burning, how do I stop it from burning? Or not even how do I stop it from burning, but how do I, put some water on it to cool it down and I'll get back to it later. Your requests start dropping. That tends to be the time that I see where clients really start to lose trust in your services as well. So you haven't shown leadership through incidents. You're not identifying problems, so they're having continual issues with their own productivity and efficiency. And now you're also not doing the simple things.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the takeaway, I guess, is build out an escalation response plan
Mhm.
before there's a crisis.
Yes.
Make sure that's communicated to everyone within the business who will be involved, and perhaps everyone who will be involved is involved in creating that escalation response plan or reviewing it once it's created,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
see, to make sure that it hits the mark, and it, because everyone's dealt with incidents and escalation issues before.
Mm.
Um, it's a good opportunity to have it documented.
Yep. Yeah. You could be using a RACI model for this as well, identifying who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed throughout the process. What parts does account management play? What parts does service play? What parts do other parts of the business play? You might need to get your accounts or finance involved if it's a dispute around, money, for example.
Yeah.
It's going to be a few different scenarios, but identify who's responsible and accountable for those parts, and who you need to keep in the loop. Will simplify things and make it a lot easier, rather than everyone just reacting at the same time, going off in completely different directions and communicating with clients. So yeah, key things from me is, have an incident management process, have an escalation process, identify who's responsible. So the example I used before, if it's around service fulfillment, incident resolution, things like that, should sit with the service department. If it is a case of investigating that further and finding that there is expectations misaligned, then it should be with your account management sales team to work with the client, with you also involved to some extent, to make sure that your department's being properly represented as well.
Absolutely. So, big review for everyone to make sure that they've got those key things documented. And I think from an account management perspective and a sales perspective, I think if I were an account manager and we just created these escalation and incident response plans, I'd go and speak to the clients and say,
Yeah,
we've created these. These are the things that we feel are important in dealing with an incident. What do you feel is important? Maybe not with every client, but with a few that we
yeah,
deal with on a regular basis. When we communicate with you, how would you like to be communicated if you've got an
yeah,
incident?
yeah.
Your clients will appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Won't go too far down another rabbit hole, but the incident one's always an interesting one with communications as well, because most businesses have email templates and that's their only response plan. What happens when Exchange Online's down? That's maybe something for me to cover off in a separate thing at some point, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, think about what happens in it's what's happening in the worst case scenario, I guess, and dial it back from there.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you very
Okay.
much. We
Yeah,
will.
thanks.
Thanks, Nathan.
Catch up soon.